Hey, what's up, everyone? In this video, we're going to be looking at replacing MyListing's Contact Form 7 with Elementor Pro forms. This guide, and when I did a video for this in the past, both are some of the most popular things that I've ever done as far as viewership and access and that sort of thing. So I've revamped the guide from top to bottom, and we are doing this video as a brand new edition for this, okay? So we're going to be using the new guide for this video. I'm going to do a bit of narration right here at the front end of this video, and then we're going to dive in and do this hands-on together, like everything in this guide. We're going to do it all together, okay? Elementor Pro Forms for single listings. Contact Form 7, not the best option. MyListing bundles the Contact Form 7 plugin with the theme because it's free to do so. Now, this is not uncommon. Lots of developers do this, bundle free plugins with their themes to give them the functionality that they need. It's not a knock on MyListing in any way. It's just, it is what it is. However, just because something is free and bundled with a theme doesn't necessarily make it the best option. I would avoid Contact Form 7 because it's difficult to use, lacks functionality, and slows down websites. Many MyListing website owners are unaware that Contact Form 7 loads CSS and JavaScript on every page of the website, regardless of whether it contains a form. Instead of using Contact Form 7, I recommend Elementor Pro for any form you add to your MyListing website, especially since there is a good chance you're already using Elementor Pro. As I've said many times before, I can't imagine building a MyListing website without Elementor Pro, or any Elementor-based website for that matter, and not using Elementor Pro, okay? Elementor Pro, the better option. Compared to Contact Form 7, Elementor Pro forms are easier to use, feature-rich, and performant. If you already use Elementor Pro or want to enhance your website's overall design / functionality, there is no reason to keep Contact Form 7 around. This guide assumes you already have Elementor Pro on your website, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and remove myself here, and I'm going to move this guide to my other screen. And let's jump into how we're going to do this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at building the contact form template. And under this heading of the guide, I've got a link to the single listing contact forms. And that's this right here. So you can download these already pre-made. These are the ones that I'm using with the starter sites. And it's going to have a lot of this configuration already done for you. Actually, most, if not all of it done. You just need some tweaking with your own branding, your own wording and stuff like that. But the core setup is in all of these. All right. Okay. We will create a new single listing contact form template in these coming steps. All right. So we're going to go from the WordPress dashboard. We're going to go templates, and then add new. We're going to choose page as our type. And then we're just going to jump right down and we're going to give it a name. So we'll call this, just for this video, we'll call it single listing contact form, just an abbreviation there. And then we're going to click create template. All right. We're just going to locate the forms widget and drop that in. I'm not going to get into the design and all that of these forms in this particular video, but we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of doing these. Okay. Okay. In the coming sections, we'll focus on the settings of the form that specifically relate to single listings. All right. So one of the things we want to do is we want to automatically input the logged in user's email address. So this is more of a convenience for the users of your website. So to do that, we're going to expand this email field that's already part of these forms by default. We're going to click on the Advanced tab. And for this default value here, we're going to click on this dynamic tags icon. And we're going to scroll down and look for site user info and click on that. Okay, and then we're going to click on the words user info. That's going to bring up another dialog box. And for the field, we're going to choose email. All right, and that's all there is to it. Now, if somebody is logged into your website already and they're going to this single listing and they see this contact form, it's going to already populate their email address in there. It just takes out, it's just one more step that they don't have to do. Now, they can overwrite that with another email if they would like, but it just pre-populates that field for them, saving them a little bit of time. It's a nice little touch there. Now for one of the big daddy steps here is, and this is one of the main keys of this entire thing, is how to automatically send email to the listing owner, okay? While you can still use MyListing's default contact email listing type field. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'm gonna go ahead and just publish this field. And I'm gonna pop out of here. I'm gonna go back into my templates. I'm gonna make sure I keep my WordPress dashboard open at all times here. Okay, so let's go to a listing type. And I created a test listing type for this video. We're going to go ahead and just go into this. And we're going to go to fields. And the only thing I've added to this listing type is the contact email field. So if I take that out of there, so this is how it looks by default with MyListing if you haven't built a listing type yet. And I just clicked on this contact email field to drop that in, okay? So again, while you can still use MyListing's default contact email listing type field, that's what we just looked at, to provide an alternate email address to send to, that field, this field I'm showing you here, the contact email field, is not actually required for this to all to work, okay? Instead, you can set up your email-based contact forms to automatically send emails to the listing owners, i.e. the listing author's email address they used when registering on your MyListing website. Okay. So again, someone signs up, they buy a package from you, or maybe you have a free package, whatever, but they register for an account with you on your website and they're going to use an email address, right? So that email address is tied to their listing, and we're going to set this up so it automatically emails that address. Okay. Pretty cool stuff. All right. So from the field, the form itself, we're going to click add new under the form fields. And we're going to create a hidden field. So we're going to select hidden. There we go. And we're going to give this a label of listing owner email. You can call it whatever you want, just something that you can remember, or you can go with what I'm showing here and follow along with the guide exactly. Okay. Next thing we're going to do here is click on advanced. And then for the default value, we're going to click on the dynamic tags icon here. Okay. So right here, we're going to click on that. And we're going to go to author this time. Instead of site like we did before, we're going to go to author this time. And we're going to choose author info. We're going to click on author info, change the field drop down. Again, we're going to choose email again. Okay. And then for the ID, we're going to paste in this little snippet of text I give you in the guide. I'm going to do that right here. Okay, this is just an identifier, just like it says, an ID. We're going to get to why this matters here shortly. Okay, so we have our ID in there. Next, we want to copy the shortcode value shown below. This is also in the guide. Okay, and we're going to scroll down and expand this email section down here. All right, in the to box, so in this to field right here, we're just going to replace what it puts in there by default with what we paste in from the guide, okay? Or you can just follow along with the video and just look at what's typed in there and put that in yourself, okay? Just that fast, we have configured this to send to the listing owner's email by default, all right? So let's look at this. So I'm going to pull up a listing here, and I've got a test listing. This test listing is assigned to the test listing type that we've already been looking at. And you'll notice we haven't put any kind of a contact email in here. It's just, there's nothing. But if we look down here on the right-hand side for the author, we see Pine in there. That's one of my users, okay? So I'm going to change that actually to, no, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that as is. So Pine has an email address. If we look at that. Actually, I'll just tell you. It's Pine. It's Ryan at pinedigital.co. Okay, so that's the email address. That's the author here. I'm actually going to unverify this listing for now because I'm going to show you how that works too. So by default, because the author of this listing is Pine Digital and the email address is associated with that author, obviously the registered user on your website, this form right here, when filled out on this listing, is automatically going to go to the author's email. All right, so let's look at that. Let's look at this listing on the front end here. We see that there's no form there. That's because we haven't added the form to our actual listing type yet, okay? And I'm going to get into the optional using that contact email field here shortly, okay? So, but let's first get this form added to our listings. From the WordPress dashboard menu, we're going to go to our templates. So let's go here, templates. And this is the form that we've been working with, SLCF, right? So over in the far right, we see the short code column. So what we want to do is just copy that short code out of there, okay? We want to go back to our listing type, and we want to go to single page, content and tabs, and then we want to go into our tab here. So if you're just building this listing type from scratch, you're going to see it look just like this. So you can add your tab, call it whatever you want. Or if the tab already exists, you can just drop it right in there if you want. There is one caveat that I want to point out. If you don't edit the default tab, i.e. the profile tab, which is what I just did there, whatever tab you use will be appended to the listing URL that is output. For example, if you have a contact tab, the listing URL will be communicated as yourwebsite.com/listing -URL #contact. So I'll show you that there. Okay. Doesn't really matter what we use for the layout or anything like that for now, but I'm going to drop this short code in here. Just click on it. It drops it in. Now you can put a label in there if you want, like contact form, or you can just clear out the label altogether. We'll go ahead and leave contact form in there. I'm going to paste in my short code for our contact form. And then if we're going to keep the label around, you might as well put some sort of an icon in here. Let's put an envelope just for email. Okay. So that gets the form into our listing type. We've got our label, we've got our short code, we've got our icon. Let's go ahead and save our changes here. Let's go back to our listing here on the front end and refresh. Okay, so now we see we've got that profile tab and we've got our form in there. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, so next up, I'm going to show you what am I going to show you next? I don't want to test it just yet. I want to show you the additional fields here and sending the optional way with the contact email field, right? So by default, again, we have no contact email in here. It's just going to the listing owner or the author, okay? Now let's say that I want to give the option of if somebody fills in this contact email field, I want that to override what the default action is, okay? So instead of only providing the option to send emails to the listing owner's email address, you can also give the option of sending emails to an address specified in the contact email field. This is useful for those who have already rolled out their website and have many listings with the contact form field already used. I should say this is especially useful. In short, if someone chooses to fill out the contact email field, that value, i.e. the email address, will be used instead of the listing owner's account email. Okay, so as part of this, I link to a code snippet, and I've already added that to this website. So that snippet will be in the guide, but I want to show you that. That's down here in WP Codebox. Okay, and it is this snippet right here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and enable that. Okay, and then next up here is we want to edit the listing owner field. So let's go back to our form. So form fields, listing owner email. This is the custom field we added earlier. Now we want to click on the advanced tab. We want to click on this X icon to clear out that default value that was in there. Then we want to click on the dynamic tags icon again. And this time we want to choose site and shortcode. Site, shortcode. Okay. Now we want to click on shortcode and we want to paste in. I give this to you in the guide as well. Everything you're going to see me pasting in here it's all available in the guide, or it's linked to in the guide. Okay. We're going to drop this in. Okay. And that is it. We're going to save our form. Note, sending to the listing owner and or sending using the contact email field is not an all or nothing proposition, as you can create multiple forms with Elementor Pro that do different things and have different recipients. What I mean by that is we've dropped this shortcode into our listing type here, okay? And just because it's set up like that doesn't mean you can't add a unique form to each listing type, or you can even add multiple forms to a listing type. That's what I mean by that note. You don't have to just use this one form. You can do a bunch of different things, okay? Okay, next up is I want to add some honeypot fields to help with spam. So we're going to go back to our form, and we're going to just click Add Item again, and we're going to change the type to honeypot. And I would go ahead and give this a label. We'll just call this honeypot. Okay, and that's all you need to do there for the label. Regardless of the form solution you choose, it's just a matter of time before you and your customers receive spam emails, whether from bots, most likely, or humans. Using honeypot fields is a super easy solution to drop in place that does not impact the user experience or website performance. Regardless of other tactics you take to combat spam that may come from forms, the honeypot option should always be added for extra protection. I recommend adding a minimum of 2 honeypot fields to every Elementor form. Okay, so we've got our one honeypot field in there. Let's go ahead and just duplicate that. So we're going to click on this duplicate icon, and it's going to create us another honeypot in there. And I also like to, as a little bonus material here, I like to just kind of move this to some other random spot in the form. Doesn't really matter where. Just drop it somewhere else, okay? And if you want to create a third one, I've heard of some people creating 3 of these. You know, it's not going to hurt anything, okay? At this point, you could stop and see if adding the honeypot fields is enough to do the job. So meaning once we do this, I'm going to go ahead and save our form. Once we do this, you could see if any spam comes in on these forms and then address later, or if you just, you're nervous and you want to take additional precautions, I don't blame you one bit. I've got links to the club's deals for anti-spam solutions. So you may want to go ahead and put that in place too. But the honeypot fields, like I said, I would put those in regardless. All right. Okay. Email tabs. We're going to come back down here to the email tab, and we're going to talk about some miscellaneous settings. Subject, you're going to want to put something in there that makes sense for your website. The message, you want to put the message that's desired in there. This is a little, not complex, but it can be if you haven't done it yet. By default, it's got a shortcode in there that says, let's just dump all of the data from, all of these fields. Right now, it's the name, email, and message. Let's just dump all of those fields into an email. Okay, but you can get selective as to what fields and what the output look like. You can add labels and stuff like that. Okay. You want to send it from an email that is a legit email for your business as a sender address. The from name, put something in there that makes sense, probably your website name or, whatever you want to do there. All of these things too have dynamic tags, which is really, really cool. You can get really creative with the dynamic tags, as you've seen so far in this video. A lot of creative stuff you can do. Reply to, you want to change this to be the email field. So this is saying when people reply to these emails here, it's going to automatically email this field right here, this email field. So it's going to reply back to that person. So some user jumps on your website, goes to a listing, contacts a restaurant, and then when that restaurant goes back to do a reply, it's going to go to the user who filled in the form. It makes sense, right? CC, you can carbon copy people if you want, or blind carbon copy. If you're using form submissions, the CC is really not needed as much because you always have those form submissions. Elementor's collect submissions feature. If it's turned on, it's turned on by default. You may or may not need to CC yourself at that time, but if someone's not an admin on the site like you or somebody else, and then maybe CCing them, or BCCing them makes sense. Metadata, what I like to do is I like to clear out everything except for page URL, just because everything else is noise and it's not really needed. So what I do want to show in form potentially is what was the listing that this came from? So it's a really cool reference point. They can actually click on that link in the email and it takes them right to that listing. So I would highly recommend that one. I'm gonna go ahead and save our changes here. Okay, we've already added the form to our single listings. And next up is just to test, okay? So let's go back to our listing. And we see that we still have not used the contact email field, okay? So let's go ahead and I'm not even gonna type anything in here. I'm just gonna hit enter, and it should go to my Pine Digital email address because I am the author of the listing. Okay, so that has been sent. Let me go refresh my email. And we see that it came through junk. Okay, there we go. So this is how it looks by default. Remember when I said that with this message field here, if you just put in leave the default all field shortcode, it's going to just drop in all of the information. So you can see it captured all that name, email, and message. And then listing owner email that dropped in. And then here's that page URL, okay? So if they want to go and click on that, it's going to take them right to the listing that, where that message was filled in. Okay, pretty cool stuff. Okay, so next up, let's test this with filling in. I got closed too many tabs here. Let's go reopen. Okay, let's put in an email here. So I'm going to put in MyListing Club Starter at gmail.com. Okay. So now, because I've put this in, I am saying I would rather send any correspondence that are coming from my listings through that contact form. I would rather them go to this address than the address that I use to sign up for their website for whatever reason. Maybe one of them is like they use for billing, and maybe another one they use is like for team members, kind of like an email distribution list, whatever the reason may be. I want to overwrite that, and I want to use this address that I put in here, okay? So because we have this code snippet in place, which is allowing us to do this, now let's go ahead and refresh this listing. I'm going to go ahead and just hit send and put nothing in here. It's going to go to that other address. There we go. That is pretty cool, right? Let's go back just one more time for fun. Let's take this out. Save. Let's go back to our listing and refresh that. This should come from my listing owner, or come to my listing owner address. Send. Let's go back to that. Refresh. There we go. This should come to my listing owner address. Pretty cool stuff, right? Okay, so then the next thing people may be wondering is, okay, that's great and everything, but what if, I'll show you this too. So see how this is pre-populated? I meant to show you that on the front end. So that's pre-populated. You can overwrite this with whatever you want. Okay, so I wanted to point that out. Okay, so some might say, I would like to hide this form if the form is unverified, meaning it's, the listing owner hasn't claimed it and verified it as a listing, or if you, the website owner, hasn't done something to verify it for yourself, just having the listing on your website and verifying it, or maybe you verified it on behalf of the user, and you don't want this form to show up because you want to ensure that if somebody fills out this form, there's somebody on the other end to respond, because it's a bad look if people are just filling out your forms and nobody is responding. That kills trust really quick. Okay. So how do we hide the contact form for unclaimed listing? These instructions are the easiest way to hide the entire contact form block, not just the form, the entire block from listings to prevent contactless, I say in air quotes, i.e. nobody on the other end to respond. Okay, so prevent contactless forms from being displayed. By default, the contact form will show for all listings, which can be problematic for those with a significant amount of listings yet to be claimed and or yet to be associated with a customer. You might actually be in air quotes, the customer. You're the listing owner, it's verified and it's assigned to you, okay? Imagine having hundreds or thousands of listings where people fill out the contact form thinking they will get a response from the listing owner and they don't. This would not only create a ton of noise for a website admin or editor, but could demonstrate a website's inability to communicate properly should emails go ignored. Okay, so let's go back to our listing type. And we're already there. So single page, content and tabs. We're going to go into that tab where we added our form. Let's go into there. And we're going to add a copy and paste from the guide into this custom block classes. And this could be whatever you want to call it too. I would just stick with what's in the guide. But you can do whatever you want there. So we added that. And that's all we got to do. We've got to save changes. And then the next step, I give you a bit of CSS, which add your site. I use WP Codebox for that. That is this snippet right here. I'm going to go ahead and toggle that on. Okay. And let's go ahead and hit refresh here. Boom. Contact form is gone, and it's gone because this listing is not verified. Let's go in the back end to our listing, and we see right here, verification status, unverified. So let's go ahead and click on that. Okay. So now, hypothetically, this has been claimed by somebody, a listing owner, and they got it verified, and or you, the listing owner, the website owner, you verified this listing because you want to show that verified badge, or you just want that contact form field, the block to show up, or whatever reason. Okay, then it's now verified. So if we click refresh here, that block is going to pop up again. Or it should. Let me go back here and make sure I save my changes. There we go. So it must have been something I forgot to hit. So there you go. So now you've got that contact form block back. And that's another, it's a selling point. If you, in your packages, you could say, hey, get that verified listing. Okay. So let's see, go to pricing here. Okay, verified listing. Here we go. Get the verified badge, right? That's in my highest plan is $15 a month. You want to get it verified, which is also going to show you the contact form. So maybe over here where I say built-in contact form is on the free plan, maybe that shows up over here now because it's, the verified badge unlocks it. However you want to approach this, but it could be an upsell opportunity. Or maybe you just mark all of your listings verified if someone gets any sort of a package, even if it's free, however it is that you want to do it. Okay. Next up, let's talk about additional spam protection. At this time, I'm working with clients on the free Cloudflare Turnstile plugin. It has really become super popular over, I'd say the last 6 months, if I had to guess. As the name suggests, it works with Cloudflare. It is free. It's just, I'm not going out there and doing a whole bunch of communication about it just yet, because I just want to see how it performs over time and how viable of a solution it is, and see if it does stay free. Not that it has to stay free, but just kind of keep tabs on how it progresses and whatnot. There may come a time when we don't need any paid solutions at all, or maybe you found another free solution that you like. Whatever works for you, that's great. Okay, if you're using CleanTalk, that is one of the club's partners. If you choose to go with the CleanTalk plugin, please be aware that you will need to add exclusions for each contact form field that's set to hidden. So what that means is, if we go back to our form, remember we set the listing owner field, this one, set to hidden. Because that's a hidden field, we need to add an exclusion to clean talk, or, so that it knows that field is there. Okay. And in the guide that we're working from here, I give you that, how to do that. All right. ReCAPTCHA. If you skip one of the recommended plugins that I linked to in the guide, another option is to layer honeypot fields with Google ReCAPTCHA, but I do not recommend you do that. So really quick, if you go here and you click add item to your form, change this to ReCAPTCHA v3. Okay, and then you can put your label in there as ReCAPTCHA, whatever you want. I do not recommend you do this. If you're going to do absolutely nothing else for your spam protection, then I would do the honeypot. And then if that doesn't work and you're absolutely hesitant to add more plugins for some reason to your site to fight spam or another solution, maybe give ReCAPTCHA a try, but I just don't recommend it because it can kill the performance of your site. It is flaky. It doesn't work that great all the time. And if you go to vendors, doesn't matter who it is, anybody that relies on ReCAPTCHA, they can't really tell you what, how to work with it. They just say trial and error it. It's a mixed bag, if you will. But that's how you would enable it. And then once you do that, you have to jump over to Elementor and then settings, integrations, and put in your keys right here. Okay, so that's the final piece for doing ReCAPTCHA. But again, I don't recommend it. I would go with a true, like a better spam solution, if you will. Form submissions, for that, we're under Elementor, settings, features. So let's click on features here and scroll down to the bottom and we see form submissions. Okay, that's activated by default. So for that, if we go to Elementor and then submissions, you'll see these forms that have been filled out here. Okay, clicking into there, you're going to see a host of information. Okay, dates, user IP, that sort of thing. I really wanted to point out regulations. One important note is that depending on your website, where your business operates from, etc., collecting this information may be frowned upon and or require you to update your privacy policy. One of the reasons is this right here, user IP. Okay. And of course, you're dealing with emails and you're dealing with contact forms. You're dealing with personal information being transmitted. Okay. So you got to really make sure that your privacy policies are on point. Essentially, if you have any contact form on your website, doesn't matter what it is, you should be covering that in your privacy policy. And I highly recommend Termageddon for that. And I linked to the Termageddon deal from the club. Okay. A word from Elementor. I reached out to them about some certain things with this. They say form submissions is GDPR compliant and uses the WordPress native export and erase user information tools. So you'll be able to access all of your data right from your WordPress admin. So that is the note from Elementor. Okay. So we've done all this stuff. Let's say that you installed the theme and you saw the notice, hey, they make you think that you need to install WooCommerce and you need to install Elementor. And then lastly, you need to install Contact Form 7, which isn't the case, but let's say you did go and you installed Contact Form 7. You can now go and uninstall that Contact Form 7 plugin, edit each listing type where you used the contact email field. So if I go back here, fields, contact email field, if I'm not needing to use this, I showed you the reasons why you might want to use it. But if you don't feel that you need to, take that field out. It's one less thing that your listing owners need to look at when they go to fill in their listing. Okay. Set the contact email field to optional so the listing owner is not forced to add an additional or different recipient. Okay. So let's go back here. You can leave this in here. And on the starter sites, I do leave this in here just to give people another option. So it's not set to required by default, but I do like to leave this in here to give them the option of overwriting their listing owner email. And I give instructions on how to do that. So one of the steps in the guide is to add a description to the contact email field, educating your users about when and why this field should be used, as I do with the club starter site. So in the description area of this field, I say something like, this is optional optional, only needed if blah, blah, blah. You can word it however you want, or you can go look at any of my starter sites and see how I word it there. But basically, you just need to tell them this is optional. You don't need to fill it out unless you want email to go to an address different than the one you use to register for your website. Okay. And then the other thing you can do is go to the single page content and tabs and remove any, where is it at here? I'm looking at contact form. Remove this contact form, like the built-in one that, that references contact form 7. You can remove that. Okay. So remember to do that. So I give you these cleanup steps in the guide, but for removing contact form 7. Okay. If you know that you'll only ever want to have listing emails go to the listing owner's account email, you can completely remove the contact email field, but you may want to leave it in place to give your users more options, as I just showed you there. All right, guys, that is it. I hope you found this super beneficial and empowering to go out and do this. You do not need contact form 7. Just proved it. Hope all is well, and I will catch you on the next one.